Sound check presenter's laptop. Sound check presenter's laptop. Clerk's laptop. Sound check. Clerk's laptop. Sound check. And we are live.
I would like to call this meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Before we start into our meeting, is there any member who would rather respond verbally to our votes and request to speak? Seeing none. I asked this question because we have some members who may be calling in today. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Partridge, who may be joining us. I don't see her online just yet, but she may be joining in on our meeting shortly.
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt, the councillor is otherwise engaged and sends
Okay,
her
she has
regrets.
her regrets. As we go through our roll call, I just ask that everyone please acknowledge when I call their name. Councillor Pearson. David Beeland.
Present, sorry.
Don't see David at the moment. Janice Brown.
Here.
Karen Burke.
Present.
Graham Carroll.
Present.
Charles Dimitri.
Present.
Lynn Lundstedt.
Present.
Robin McKee.
Here.
Timothy Ritchie.
Here.
Okay. And Will Rosard.
You hear me? Yeah.
Moving on to our approvals, our agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a withdrawn delegation request from Miles Weeks regarding an item in 10.1, the Inventory and Research Working Group meeting notes, specifically for 537 King Street East. He emailed this morning to advise that they would not need to speak to the group. We have under consent items, item 7.3, which is the Education and Communication Working Group meeting notes of October 6th. And under general information, other business, we have 13.2, staff work plan as of October 18th.
May I now have a mover and a seconder to bring forward that motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I see Graham and I see Karen.
And as we move to vote,
Sorry.
oh, Will's there, okay.
Yeah,
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under delegations, or under declarations of interest, are there any declarations of interest today? If you can please just acknowledge. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of our minutes of our previous meeting. So we have before us the meeting notes of September 24th, 2021. May I have a motion to approve the September 24th, 2021 minutes?
I see Tim and I see Janice.
As we vote, is there anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under consent items, we have before us items 7.1 to 7.3 under consent. Is there any questions about these items? If I can just get everyone to raise their hand if wish to speak. Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive these items?
I see Councillor Pearson and I see Lynn Lundstedt.
Okay. We will now vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, that item is carried. We now move on to our staff presentations. So Chloe Richet, our Cultural Heritage Planner, is here to give a presentation on our next item, which is 8.1.
I know. I see you, Victoria.
Heritage. Oh, Will, can I get you to mute yourself?
Sorry.
Hello.
Item 8.1 is our Heritage Permit Application, HP 2021-043, under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the demolition of a circa 1980 detached garage located at 19 Mill Street South in Waterdown, PED 21205 in Ward 15. Welcome, Chloe.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I am just starting my slideshow here. Okay, so thank you for your attention as I present to you regarding Heritage Permit Application HP 2021-043 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for demolition of a circa 1980 detached garage at 19 Mill Street South in Waterdown, Ward 15. In the center of this image, you can see the garage proposed for demolition. I would also note that the built heritage resource in the background of the image will not be impacted by this heritage permit application. Here you can see the location of the subject property within the Mill Street Heritage Conservation District. And you can also see it's located near the intersection of Mill Street South and Dundas Street East. This aerial image also shows the transportation vehicles that are on site. The scope of work of this heritage permit application is the demolition of a circa 1980s detached garage. It is of wood construction with vinyl siding. And the reason is firstly that the location of the garage makes it difficult for the transportation vehicles to enter and exit the property. Secondly, there's an ongoing issue with the garage being broken into. On this slide, I've included excerpts from the Mill Street Heritage Conservation District Plan regarding features and spaces around buildings, key parking areas and outbuildings, including garages, and utilities such as heat pumps and satellite dishes to the to the side or the rear in traditional service areas, as well as alterations to non-heritage buildings, locate new garages and parking spaces in unobtrusive areas, normally to the rear and side yards. And finally, regarding hedges and fences, the plan notes that several properties within the district are defined by low ornamental fences of wood or iron, or hedges of either deciduous or coniferous shrubs. The next two slides include several photos of the property with the existing garage proposed for demolition. So here are two exterior shots. And on this slide, you can see two interior photographs of the garage. At their meeting on September 21st, 2021, the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee reviewed this heritage permit application. The subcommittee recommended that the application be approved. In addition, it was recommended that a fence be erected at the location of the garage to screen the transportation vehicles that are visible on site. Staff's recommendation is that the application be approved with the following conditions. Implementation of the alterations in accordance with this approval shall be completed no later than November 30th, 2023. If the alterations are not completed by November 30th, 2023, then this approval expires as of that date, and no alterations shall be undertaken without a new approval issued by the City of Hamilton. That the property owner shall submit a fencing option to the satisfaction and approval of the Director of Planning and Chief Planner prior to any application for a building permit and or the commencement of any alterations, and that appropriate notice of the council decision be served on the owner of 19 Mill Street South, Waterdown, as required under Section 42 of the Ontario Heritage Act. I would note that the staff report for this heritage permit application includes the Ontario Heritage Trust in this final condition. However, only notifying the property owner is required for Part 5 properties. Thank you for your time. I would now welcome any questions.
Thank you, Chloe. Does anyone have any questions? If you could just raise your hand and we'll start a speakers list if there is discussion. Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive Chloe's presentation?
I see Robin and I see Lynn.
Okay. We will now vote to receive. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And we now move on to the report. So before us, we have the report as Chloe has outlined. Staff's recommendation is that heritage permit application HP 2021-043 for the demolition of a circa 1980 detached garage, wood construction with vinyl siding, for the lands located at 19 Mill Street South be approved subject to the conditions that she outlined. If there's no further discussion, may I have a mover and a seconder to approve those recommendations?
I see Tim and I see Karen.
And as we vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. We now move on to item 8.2, which is the Waterdown Village Built Heritage Inventory Project recommendations. Alyssa Golden, Heritage Project Specialist, is here to give a presentation on the next item. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you very much. Just one sec while I pull up my presentation. And hopefully everyone's seeing the screen correctly. Okay. Just going to check my bandwidth here. Great. Okay, so thanks so much for having me today. I'm here to speak to item 8.2 on your agenda, Staff Report PED 21201, the recommendations for the Waterdown Village Built Heritage Inventory. So this represents the third phase of the city's Built Heritage Inventory strategy, which is an initiative to proactively update our inventory of heritage buildings. It involved conducting updated field surveys and preliminary evaluations of all of the properties within the historic village of Waterdown. And the main objectives of the project were to determine essentially what we have and where it's located, and to also identify candidates for listing on our Municipal Heritage Register, as well as candidates for designation under the Heritage Act. This slide here shows you the study area that we looked at as a part of this Waterdown Village Built Heritage Inventory. To the left of the screen, you see areas projecting along Dundas Street and up Hamilton Street to the north. These are areas that are included in the Waterdown Community Node Secondary Plan, which is being conducted in parallel to this inventory, and which is the main reason for us conducting this inventory to help inform that plan. And we also looked at the remainder of the area to the east to make up the entirety of the historic village to have a proper understanding of the context of the overall historic settlement area. And what you're seeing here within the study area map shown on the slide is the existing status of all of the properties within our study area. Shown in yellow are all those properties that we've inventoried. So we did look at every single individual property within the study area as a part of this project. We also have 13 properties that are already listed on our Municipal Heritage Register, shown in orange. And in purple are all of the properties that are already designated under the Heritage Act, and these primarily are located within the existing Mill Street Heritage Conservation District. And the process undertaken for this inventory is our council-adopted Heritage Inventory process. We did begin this project back in 2018, in May of 2018, and we have had to adapt and pivot a few times in light of the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been processing and dealing with. But we are very happy to bring our final recommendations to you today for listings on the Municipal Heritage Register. And we do have a list of the full scope of activities in terms of engagement and consultation that we've undertaken the last 3.5 years in Appendix C of the report attached to this item. I've just highlighted a few of the main activities here on this slide, but important to point out is that all of the properties being recommended for listing on the register as a part of this staff report, the owners did receive notice of those draft recommendations, invitations to our virtual open house to discuss them, and were also provided follow-up notices if they did indicate some opposition to what's being recommended. In terms of how these properties were evaluated and identified for potential heritage interest, we followed the same approach we've taken with the rest of our inventory work so far, which is a contextual approach and involves the development of a historic context statement to really understand the key eras and evolutional process of the area that we're looking at. And then we determine heritage value or interest of each individual property based on its contribution to the character of the overall study area. So I won't go into the historic context statement in detail. It is attached as Appendix B to the staff report, but just wanted to highlight that we do identify the key eras in terms of the evolution and development of the village from the Indigenous presence on the land all the way up to present day. And in addition to the written and visual interpretation of this historic context statement that's attached as Appendix B, you can also find the interactive story map of the evolution of the history of Waterdown through the link provided here on the slide. And then also want to highlight within the historic context statement that staff have identified the key heritage attributes that contribute to the value of this historic settlement area of Waterdown, including the natural topography. And really important to point out here is the connection between and the intersection of the escarpment and the Grindstone Creek, and how that has attracted both Indigenous and Euro-Canadian occupation and settlement over its evolution. And in terms of how we've classified the properties and made recommendations about how they might be recognized or protected, we followed our standard city process for classification that categorizes properties as either inventoried properties. These are properties that have a building on them that is not currently considered to have heritage value or interest. Then we have character supporting resources, and these contribute in some capacity to maintain or support the historic character of the area. We then have character defining resources. These similarly help define the character of the area and may have a stronger design or physical value associated with them. And then finally, we have significant built resources, and these are properties that have been identified as landmarks within the community. And then in terms of how we've developed our recommendations, all properties that have identified as significant built resources, character defining, or character supporting are being recommended for listing or inclusion on the register. And then additionally, all properties that have been identified as significant built resources are also candidates for potential designation. And it's important to note that there are some properties that have heritage value or interest that are already designated or registered, and so no further action or recommendations are required for those. Here's a visual representation of the property classifications for the study area. You can see that there's a concentration of these properties of heritage interest really within the historic core of Waterdown, focused along the historic transportation corridors, including Dundas Street, traveling east-west, as well as the main north-south corridors of Main Street and Mill Street. And that you see the much later subdivision development and residential intensification traveling outwards on the outskirts of the village. So the recommendations before you today are related to the register additions. There are 209 properties that have been identified as being of heritage interest and are being recommended for listing, and these are included in Appendix A of the report. And as I mentioned, there's also designation candidates that have been identified. There are 11 properties that don't currently have designation protection, but that fall within this category as being significant and candidates for designation. These will be brought forward as a separate staff report in the coming months. And here's just a visual representation of those draft recommendations and what's being proposed today. In orange are the register additions that are being recommended as a part of this report. And in purple are those designation candidates that we'll report back on shortly. I also wanted to highlight that in Appendix D of the staff report, you'll find the 6 properties that staff did receive formal opposition letters for from their owners or agents. And here's just a snapshot of those 6 properties for reference. And regarding owner's consent and listing properties on the register, just wanted to highlight that the Heritage Act does not require consent or consultation prior to council making a decision to add a property to the register, although this has been an important component of our heritage inventory strategy and other phases of work, including Waterdown. We do have an extensive amount of consultation and engagement that we do before we actually bring these recommendations forward in an attempt to educate about the process, why we're undertaking this work, the importance of community heritage, trying to address any concerns, misconceptions, or clarify implications about what it actually means to be listed on the register, and to ensure that those owners who have voiced concern or opposition are noted within our report so that council can consider that before they make their final recommendation. And another aspect I just wanted to highlight around consent is since the recent Bill 108 changes to the Ontario Heritage Act, we are now required to give notice after a property is listed on the register. This is something that we already did, but the difference here is that the Act now sets out a process for Council to reconsider any opposition following listing on the register. So they must consider that and decide whether to keep a property on the register or remove it. So it's important to note here that even owners that might not have submitted formal opposition in advance of this being brought forward could submit formal opposition to the listing after it's taken place, and Council must reconsider that. So in conclusion, listing these 209 properties in Waterdown on the register would help recognize their heritage value or interest, and from an administrative perspective, provide interim protection from demolition with that 60-day delay provided under the Ontario Heritage Act. And staff do not recommend that any of the register additions be removed solely based on owner opposition. Any advice to remove a register recommendation should really be based on whether or not it's believed to be of heritage value or interest. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
So if we have any questions, if I can get everyone to raise their hand and we'll begin a speakers list. I see Janice to start off. Is there any other questions? If not, Janice, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair. Alyssa, with the owner objections, are any significant built heritage resources?
That's a good question. No, all of the 6 properties highlighted and the objection letters included in the appendix are character supporting resources. None are significant built resources that are also candidates for designation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Alyssa? Oh, Chuck, go ahead.
Through the chair and to Alyssa. Alyssa, you mentioned that there were, of the new properties flagged, almost, I think to quote you, almost all of them had been on the register, or sorry, the properties that you were recommending for designation, almost all of them were on the register. Can you specify the ones that weren't on the register and how many there are and what the how much at risk those properties are, in your opinion?
Sure, not a problem, Chuck. So through the chair, prior to commencing the project in 2018, I believe there were only 2 properties that were on the register in all of the historic village. Midway through the project, there was some concern about potential redevelopment that was raised to the councillor. The local councillor had moved a couple of motions in 2019 to proactively list what were identified as some of the significant buildings within the village to the register and also add them to the destination work plan. So all but one of the properties we've also identified through this inventory process were candidates for designation that the councillor had already added. The only one that I can think of that is not already listed on the register off the top of my head is the Cricker building, the Cricker House on Dundas, which is in good shape. It's undergone restoration and redevelopment work in the recent years. It's being recommended to be added to the register as a part of this report, and then we'll also be bringing forward a recommendation to designate that property in the coming months.
Do we have any other questions or discussion? Any follow-up? Lynn, go ahead.
I just have a comment. The owner, so the chair, the owner objection letters, they say redacted all over them, but nothing's redacted. And I was just wondering if that was intentional or not.
Through the chair, I'll just take a look here. So what you're seeing as redacted is in place where you see redacted in that attachment in that appendix is where sensitive information has been removed. So the actual email addresses or phone numbers of the owners that were originally included in that correspondence. So that's just to indicate that there has been something that's been removed within that letter.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments for Alyssa, may I have a motion to receive the present? Oh, Janice. Go ahead. You're
Just one quick question, and it has to do with Bill 108 and the follow-up. Is there a length of time that these owners can come back to council and say, I would prefer that this not go through?
That is a very good question. I'm just going to pull up my summary so I don't get anything wrong while I'm trying to go off the top of my head. We must, so as a municipality, we must provide notice to the owner of council's decision to list the property on the register within 30 days of that happening. And once we receive any objection from an owner, council must consider that and make a decision whether to remove it or keep it on the register within 90 days. As far as I'm aware, there is no timeline in terms of an owner's ability to provide that objection. I think that's most likely intended to capture the fact that you might have a change in ownership. New information could be presented, and a new owner, after something's been listed on the register, might then object or provide new information to justify something being removed from the register.
Thank you.
all right. If there's no other questions, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation?
I see Tim and I see Janice.
And we'll move to vote on the presentation, to receive the presentation. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And thank you, Alyssa, for that great presentation. That was great to see. And we now move on to the report. So before us, we have the recommendation that staff be directed to list the properties identified in Appendix A, attached to report PD 21201 on the Municipal Heritage Register as a non-designated properties that council believes to be of cultural heritage value or interest in accordance with Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve those recommendations?
I see Robin and I see Tim.
If there's no other questions or discussion, we'll move on to that vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. And we'll move on to item 8.3. Item 8.3 is the recommendation to designate 1099 King Street East in Hamilton, which is the Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, PED 21211 in Ward 3. And we have Amber Knowles, Cultural Heritage Planner, here to give us a presentation. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair and Heritage Committee members. I'll just share my presentation here. Sorry about that. Can you see the presentation, but it's probably not giving you full slides right now?
That's right, Amber. Is there a way to, if you go to from the beginning, yeah, that button that reads from the beginning and you go straight into the slideshow,
Yeah.
does that change anything?
It takes over my entire screen.
So you cannot, oh, and then you can't see your own notes?
No.
Take your time. We'll get it, we'll get it sorted.
Sorry.
Can you open another, can you open a PDF version of it separately from this and share that? Then you can still see your notes?
Probably. One moment.
No problem.
Is that currently working?
Mostly, it's from my view, and I'm not sure what the other members are seeing. It's quite small and it's off to the left. I don't know if there's a way to maximize. That seems better. Yes, let's go with that. I think that's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you. My apologies for that, Madam Chair and committee members. So today, I would like to present on a recommendation to designate 1099 King Street East, Hamilton, the Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. (1099) King Street East, the Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool, is located on the south side of King Street East. The property is located east of Balson Avenue North, west of Melrose Avenue North, and south of Cannon Street East, all within Ward 3. The lands located to the north and the west of the property were redeveloped in 2018 as the Bernie Morelli Recreation Center and Bernie Custis Secondary School, and the Tim Hortons Field is located north of the pool. The Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool is a city-owned property. It was conceived as a municipal pool in 1928 and it opened in January of 1930.
It's supposed to be very nice inside.
So staff did receive a third-party request for designation of this property in September 2013. In December of 2013, the subject property was added to the Municipal Heritage Register and added to the work plan for designation. In May 2018, the city retained Golder Associates Limited to complete a cultural heritage impact assessment, which was revised and finalized in May 2021. The cultural heritage assessment recommended the property's designation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The subject property has been evaluated using both the City of Hamilton's framework for evaluating the cultural heritage value and interest of property for designation under Part 4, as well as the criteria for determining cultural heritage value and interest as defined within Ontario Regulation 906 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And all of this is in accordance with the council-approved designation process. It has been determined that 1099 King Street East, Hamilton has design physical value, historical associative value, and contextual value. It meets 9 of the city's 12 criteria and 7 of 9 criteria as defined in Ontario Regulation 906. And so therefore, staff do recommend designation of this property under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Conceived as a municipal pool in 1928, as mentioned, the Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool opened in January of 1930, and later that year served as a swimming events venue for the inaugural British Empire Games, which later became the Commonwealth Games. After the Games, it did revert to a municipal pool and home to the Hamilton Aquatic Club. And in 1971, it was named for Jimmy Thompson, a former Olympic athlete, a swimming coach, and instructor. The architect for the pool was Reginald Edwards McDonnell, and the pool's engineer was Ernest Howard Darling. Darling did write an account of this building. So in 1933, in his account, he outlined the construction of a wide range of considerations involving the pool's design, preventing cracks in the concrete, and controlling humidity, and ensuring adequate lighting. During the British Empire Games in August of 1930, Hamilton welcomed 450 competitors and 11 nations and attracted a crowd of over 20,000 to the opening ceremonies. At the time, the pool was celebrated as considered to be a progressive marvel of engineering and public hygiene. James Jimmy Thompson was born in Dundee, Scotland in 1906, and he emigrated to Toronto with his parents as a teenager. He was selected in 1928 for the Canadian Olympic mission to Amsterdam, and Thompson took home a bronze with the 880-yard freestyle relay team. 2 years later, in the pool that now bears his name, Thompson won gold with the men's freestyle 4x200-yard relay team at the British Empire Games. In 1932, Thompson moved to Hamilton and joined the Delta Aquatic Club, which soon changed its name to the Hamilton Aquatic Club, and appointed Thompson as their first coach. and he was a coach at this pool for 33 years. He's perhaps best known for teaching an estimated 60,000 children of all backgrounds and abilities to swim, and that feat earned him the moniker Mr. Swimming. In 1959, Thompson was named Hamilton's Citizen of the Year and Canada's Swimming Coach of the Year in 1964. The recommendation to add the property to the register and the designation work plan was supported by the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee at their December 19th, 2013 meeting. The Inventory and Research Working Group of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee reviewed and commented on the Cultural Heritage Assessment at their October 28th and their November 25th, 2019 meetings. The Ward 3 councillor has been informed of the recommendation to designate the subject property. The property was found, as mentioned earlier, to meet 7 of the 9 criteria contained within Ontario Regulation 906 in all 3 of the categories. So for design and physical value, the property is a rare and well-executed example of a pre-1950 competition in public indoor pool and a unique example of Edwardian classicism, and it also demonstrates a high degree of artistic merit and also of technical achievement. Its historical and associative value is due to its direct associations with the British Empire Games and also Jimmy Thompson. For contextual value, the property is important for contributing to the local architectural character and being the last remaining structure of the British Empire Games, as well as being a landmark in the community. The heritage attributes of the exterior of the building involve its 5-bay, 2-story south facade built in the Edwardian classicism style, including its semicircular headed windows with 2 orders of gauged brick voussoirs and keystones, and filled with decorative brick. There's also Flemish bond masonry combined with stone string courses and a strong cornice, a kick-tip roof with skylights, and a tall brick chimney on the west facade. Its interior features include roof trusses, a spoon-shaped basin with dichromatic tiling, a tiled pool barrier wall, subfloor access passages, ascending concrete bleachers, its tiled changing rooms, and also an iron coal furnace door. Attributes that reflect the property's contextual values include its continued use for a municipal pool as part of a larger recreation and sport land use area, its orientation to the street with minimal setback, and its landmark qualities from its sitting and clear sight lines along King Street East. In conclusion, the subject property meets 7 of the 9 criteria for designation under Ontario Regulation 906. As such, staff recommend the subject property to be designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. With respect to any potential changes to the building, any proposal affecting the heritage attributes will be subject to approval of a heritage permit and any other required applications. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I'm available for any questions. And additionally, we do have a staff member from Golder who could answer any questions specific to the Cultural Heritage Assessment here as well. Thanks.
Thank you for that presentation, Amber. Do we have any questions for the presentation? If I can get everyone to raise their hand and we'll begin the speakers list.
I'd like to put in a comment.
Okay, so we'll add you to the list, Will,
Oops,
and I also have
really.
So I also have Will and I have Janice. Any others? So go ahead, Will.
It's a minor thing, but that's where I learned to swim when I was about 7 years old. Under Jimmy Thompson.
Oh, really? Very nice.
Yeah, a little extra story. And many of the children in Hamilton learned under him for many years. And I think he was notorious for throwing us in the pool. But you learned to swim. But
Exactly.
anyway, I wanted to add that comment today.
It's always interesting to hear that personal touch to those kind of properties and events. That's great.
Exactly.
And Janice?
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Amber. Yes, Amber, I have to get these names all straight. I think that was an excellent presentation. And mine is just a little note as well. I can remember being at the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting in 2013 when the family showed up and they were very interested. I think they were the third party that recommended this designation. So good to see this on having been completed now. Thank you.
I see Robin with a question.
You said that there was a minimal setback on the street, and it looks almost a triangle property. It's not square to the street and the lot. So where does the property line end? Does it go square? Oh, sorry. Does it go square with the street, or does it go diagonal with the street? Because the west corner is closer to the street than the east corner.
Through the chair, thank you for that question, Robin. It does go diagonal along the street. If you'd like, I can just show you one of my slides again that just demonstrates this a little clearer. So ignore the red where I circled the subject property, but you can see the brown box there should be the extent of the property for the Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool.
Thank you. With that in mind, how dangerous is it for the LRT construction to be in that western corner of the property?
I'm not aware of any concerns regarding the LRT in this property. And I do know that there has been that LRT related issues have been brought up to our group. So I don't expect there to be any issues with this property.
Thank you, Amber. Robin, did you have any follow up to that? Very good. Nope. Okay. Oh, did we have someone that wished to speak? Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair, Tim.
Go ahead, Tim.
Just a quick comment. Yeah, just a quick comment through the chair. It's quite a wonderful stage we've come to here since 2015 when staff recommended demolishing the pool, that we've come full circle to this designation. It's kind of the last thing standing with, as well as, what is it, the King George School just around the corner. So it'll be interesting to see going forward how much heritage preservation goes into the redevelopment of this area during a light rail. I don't know if staff has any idea of any further designations that can be reserved in this area.
Did anyone from staff wish to comment on that? Amber or Anita?
Through the chair, there was mention of King George School, which I believe is under notice of intention to designate. We do have the designation work plan. I can't think off the top of my head other properties in this specific area that are potential upcoming designations. But we could look into that and get back to the committee in future.
Is that okay, Tim, or is there any other questions?
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it is because some of the stuff does get sort of trumped by LRT development there, so it would be interesting to know what can be held on to.
And I think staff have had a chance to look at those LRT plans, so any properties of concern have already been highlighted. Anita, did you wish to comment at all? No? Okay, so if there's if there's no other discussion, oh, there she is.
Sorry, technical
problem.
difficulties. Through the chair. No, I was just going to comment in terms of what Amber had indicated about the school. And I'm trying to find quickly as I can on the internet and couldn't get to it fast enough. But I thought that the LRT stop was, and I could be wrong, I don't want to misspeak, but I thought it was by the Tim Hortons field, but let me just try and confirm that. No? Okay. I just couldn't recall if it was going to be on that side of the building or on the other side, but I will see what I can find in terms of mapping, but I couldn't find it fast enough.
All the artists' interpretations, it's in the middle of the road.
I believe it's on the south side of Bernie Custis School.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. So it's just up from that because it has to stay on King Street, Anita. Tim Hortons Field's on Cannon. Thanks.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Is there any other discussion? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation?
I'd like to.
I believe Will might have a question before we move forward.
No. I wanted to offer to move.
Oh, okay. So you wanted to acknowledge.
I hear Will and Graham Carroll.
Okay. As we move to vote to receive the presentation, is there anyone opposed? If not, that item is carried, and we'll move on to the report. So before the report before us, just as a reminder, is that City Council state its intention to designate under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, the property of 1099 King Street East, Hamilton, Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool, in accordance with the Statement of Cultural Heritage Value or Interest and description of heritage attributes of 1099 King Street East in Hamilton, attached as Appendix B in Report PED 21211, and that the clerk be directed to give notice of intention to designate the property at 1099 King Street East, Hamilton as a property of cultural heritage value or interest in accordance with the requirements of Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, subject to the following conditions that Amber had outlined. So that is the recommendation before us. May I have a mover and a seconder to bring forward that motion to approve the recommendations, unless there's further discussion?
I see Karen and I see Tim.
Okay. And as we move on to vote, do we have anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. And our moving on to our final staff report is item 8.4, which is the Heritage Permit Application HP 2021-044 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the demolition of 983 Beach Boulevard, Hamilton, PED 21208 in Ward 5. So we have Stacy Kursakowski, a Cultural Heritage Planner, is here to give a presentation on this item. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you. Let me just get. All right, is that sufficient? Wonderful. Okay, so welcome everyone. The application before us is Heritage Permit Application HP 2021-044, which is designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the proposed demolition and reconstruction of 983 Beach Boulevard in Hamilton. Oh. This is an image of the property prior to the approved demolition of the detached garage. This is an aerial indicating in purple, it is part of the Hamilton Beach Heritage Conservation District, and the aerial just indicates the current image of the property. The building, as mentioned, is designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. It was constructed circa 1920 as a seasonal cottage. The proposal before us is for the proposed demolition of the existing original dwelling due to unforeseen structural issues and reconstruction as the exact design and footprint that was previously approved, including a rear addition under HP 2019-027. And the reason for that is due to unforeseen compromised structural integrity of the building due to its original construction method, which was for a seasonal cottage. So part of, there were previous applications for this property. One was a site plan control application, and the proposal before us is consistent with the plans that were approved there, as the applicant is seeking to reconstruct under the same setbacks, massing, finished floor elevation, and dimensions that currently exist. The new dwelling will be required to comply with the zoning bylaw as part of the building permit process. As mentioned earlier, there was a heritage permit that was approved in 2019, and that is HP 2019-027. The owner's original intent was to maintain the original cottage portion of this property. They quite love the building and the character it does have. In yellow just simply indicates what they had originally proposed to do and what they were originally approved to do. The rest of the heritage permit in 2019 was for the demolition of the existing rear addition and the existing garage addition. That work has been completed, and that is what has led us to, or has led the applicant to understand some of the structural issues they are now dealing with the original portion of the cottage. This is an image noted above. For this application, we are not looking at the proposed addition to the back or the detached garage, as those were previously approved. We are simply looking at the original cottage portion. So the elevations will be the same as what currently exists today, with the elimination of the chimney and some larger window openings to meet current OBC requirements. Along with the application, the applicant did submit a structural engineering assessment report, and it noted that the original floors, the floor framing consisted of timber joists supported on timber beams. The foundation was timber posts or log sections sitting unembedded, basically on the beach sand that is there today, which, as you can imagine, has led to a lot of rot over time. It was identified that there were no exterior foundation walls, which was consistent with the method of construction, and the original use as an unheated seasonal summer cottage. Over time, the timber post foundation has collapsed, and previous owners have added block masonry piers to shore the framing. The structural engineer did conclude there were no merits in terms of the cost or quality in restoration or the preservation of this building. And with costs aside, the foundation was not repairable without demolition. These are some images that were included within the CHIA and the structural report. As you can see, the pictures show the conditions and what the owners are dealing with on this property. A cultural heritage impact assessment was also submitted, and it was prepared by GIMO Architects. It was submitted given the request for demolition of a Part 5 designated property. They have identified that the interior of the cottage has been renovated over time with very minimal interior features remaining. Of note, you can see in the front gable, there is a window that has been recommended to be salvaged and reintegrated into the new building, as well as some brickwork they believe is part of the original chimney. And the beams were salvaged from another property and are not original to this structure. Overall, the cultural heritage impact assessment understood and was in belief that the property did meet the criteria given its location within as a character supporting feature within the Heritage Conservation District. The CHIA was reviewed by the Policy and Design Working Group on September 20th, 2021, and they were satisfied with the assessment. The Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee was consulted on September 21st, and they recommended that the application be submitted, or as submitted, be approved. And they added the recommendation about incorporating that original window from the front gable. Overall, staff are in agreement with the recommendations of the Policy and Design Working Group, as well as the Permit Review Subcommittee and believe that the existing condition of the building is rapidly deteriorating and there are safety concerns on site, and are in support of the documentation that was provided by the applicant and their project team. The recommendations included in the staff report were as follows, that the application for the demolition of the Part 5 designated heritage building and the construction of a new single detached dwelling for the lands located at 983 Beach Boulevard under Section 42 be approved with the following conditions. Implementation no later and construction of the building no later than November 30th, 2023. That the materials for the wood cladding on the new dwelling be approved through the Director of Planning and Chief Planner and submitted prior to any application for building permit. And that is just to ensure consistency with what was approved for the addition. That the existing leaded glass window in the front gable be salvaged prior to demolition and reincorporated into the front gable of the new dwelling, and that the existing wrought iron fence in the front yard be repaired and maintained in its current location to maintain that character along the streetscape. And finally, that appropriate notice of the council decision be served on the owner of 983 Beach Boulevard as required under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And this is similarly to Chloe's. There was no need to serve notice upon the trust, given it as a Part 5 designated property. And that is everything, and I would welcome questions at this time.
Thank you very much for that, Stacy. Do we have any questions? If I can have members raise their hand and we'll get the speakers list started. No questions? Oh, Janice? Go right ahead, Janice.
Yes, thank you very much through the chair to Stacy for this presentation. I don't know if I have a question or I have a comment. This is an HCD dating back to 2000. Okay, so that's 19 years ago. I am not familiar with how property standards works in regard to heritage conservation districts. And as a property that was part of a heritage conservation district, are there not special considerations that properties be maintained? This looked like it's been in deterioration for a very, very long time. Those are my comments.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So all of that structural, the compromised structural integrity was not identified until the additions were removed to construct the previously approved addition. So when they opened, when the new owners and their project team opened the back facade, essentially after taking off the addition, that's when they uncovered the compromised structural beams within the building. They were unaware in advance of removing that addition.
Thank you for clarifying that, Stacy. Any other comments or questions for the presenter? If none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation?
I see Robin and I see Lynn.
Great. And as we move to vote to receive the presentation, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And we will move on to vote on the report. May I have, if there's no questions in regards to the report, the recommendation before us is that the Heritage Permit Application HP 2021-044 for the demolition of the Part 5 designated heritage building and the construction of a new single detached dwelling for lands located at 983 Beach Boulevard under Section 42 of the Ontario Heritage Act be approved with the conditions that were outlined by Stacy. So that's the recommendation before us. May I have a mover and a seconder?
I see Graham as mover and Lynn as seconder.
And if there is no questions or discussion, we'll move to vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you very much, Stacy, for that presentation.
Through the chair.
Madam Chair.
Actually, Robin, just a second.
Oh.
David was just in ahead of you. Hello, David. Did you have a question?
Yes, actually, I have been listening. I had some trouble getting in. I'm on virtual live stream here, but I'm not connected through the host. But I can hear through the phone here.
Oh, okay. That's so Lorraine will make sure that she's noted you as in attendance.
Okay. Thank you.
And Robin, you had a question?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that phone call that I got was a personal thing I have to go for. When I get a phone call again, I will need to leave the meeting.
Okay, understood. Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're coming to the end of the staff reports. Just before we leave, I just want to thank staff for all of the work that was put into those reports and presentations. And I think just before we leave this section, just an acknowledgement of the work that Alyssa Golden and both the staff and the volunteers have put into that special project for the Waterdown community. So that there's months and months and months of work and a lot of hard effort that has been put into making sure all of those properties are reviewed and documented, and so that we can come today and have the report go forward to council. So excellent job to listen the team, and again, just want to extend our thanks to everyone that's been involved behind the scenes to get that prepared so we can move forward, and look forward to those designations coming forward at a later date. Discussion items. We now move on to 10.1, and we have our inventory and research working group meeting notes from August 23rd, 2021. So in the notes, you'll notice that there are a couple of recommendations. So the working group was recommending approval of 537 King Street East be added to the Municipal Heritage Register, and that staff work plan for heritage designation under the Ontario Heritage Act, as well as 99 Creighton Road in Dundas to be added to the Municipal Register. So those are the two recommendations, and we have staff available if anyone has any questions. Is there any discussion in regards to this item? So I see Graham. Graham, go ahead.
In the agenda, somehow the inventory form that got posted is blank. It is not the one I filled out.
Okay.
What?
Thanks for noticing, Graham. I will, if you can resend that one form to me, please.
Okay.
I will have that uploaded after today's meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have it open on my computer if you want me to go through it so people can understand what we're talking about.
And Graham, I have it, and I downloaded mine because it wasn't up yet, and I knew we needed to talk about this. So I have no idea how yours ended up blank, since what I sent to Lorraine was exactly what I downloaded. So there we go, another mystery with technology. Sorry about that, but it's what I have. I'm going to check the other one. I wonder if that one's blank.
And even stranger, I'm looking at it on the screen and it's not blank.
It's not blank. That is.
Oh.
Do you think it's your computer, Graham?
No, because it's a PDF, right? This is the agenda package.
Yep. Well, it's not blank from. Yeah, I don't know what's transpired.
So Lorraine, if you don't mind, do you mind if Graham just shares his screen for a moment?
Go right ahead.
And while he's sharing his screen, if I might ask a question, there was a delegation. Was that delegation with regard to this particular property?
Someone get me.
Janice, that delegation has been withdrawn.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Just asking.
Okay. No, I don't know what I'm sharing
during
here.
changes to the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Graham, now you're showing all your photos.
The wrong one. Yeah, this is the problem when you got a few things open.
Don't have to do it.
Okay, let's try it again.
Don't have to, yeah.
Share content. Yeah, it's really weird. It's showing that I'm showing this one. Okay, is it a built heritage inventory form now?
Can't see it. Yes, it's complete.
It's
Okay.
open to, yep.
Okay. So that's the one I filled out. It's and for some reason on my agenda, it's blank. So obviously it's 537 King Street East, which was the former Rebel Rocks. We have a inventory date of 1890 on the website, but I believe it's 1898 cornerstone on the building. So they're a little bit different. It's a 2.5-story building that fronts onto King Street East. The foundation is all stone. Part of it's finished and part of it's rough, which is very strange. The construction material is brick and the cladding is brick. It's a hip style roof, Queen style building with late Victorian stylings. It does have a nice turret on the outside of it. The sills are stone, all lintels are stone. There is a dormer on the building. This is the only building I've ever seen with a window constructed in the middle of a chimney. It's got one voussoir only. It's on a small round window on the west side, which is not easily viewed from the street. You have to go up to it and look at it. Very shallow setback from the street. There is a small addition on the back of the building. I am, without trespassing, unsure whether the building is just enclosing the 2-story veranda that used to be there at one time, or if it's a completely new addition. So I feel it's a rare example due to the fact that it is the only turreted building in that area. Like there is a lot in the Durand area or similar, but not around that area. The nearest one I could find of similar style was over at the corner of Norway and Mapleside, which is quite a ways away. It shows a lot of artistic merit with the ceramic or the terracotta, thank you, on inserts all the way through it. So to me, it defines the neighborhood. It is a significant built resource, and as of right now, I believe it's only on the inventory. So I'd like it added to the designation work plan and included on the register. Back on August 12th, quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we went through. Guess I could come out of that sharing now, correct?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, and Brandon, if you check yours, if you have a filled form, I guess I don't need to send it, but I can still send it to you if you want.
That's fine. Yes, I'll check it after today's meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Graham. Did we have, so maybe if we look at the two properties individually, did anyone have any questions or comments about 537? Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, and great information. I just Googled. I drive by it every day going to City Hall. So how did you see the window on the chimney?
If you actually look at the pictures I've sent in, you can see the original chimney on the outside of the building on the east facade. It's on page 340 of 376 of the report of the agenda. And if you look right in the middle of it, you can still see it has an upper and lower sill of stone right in the middle of that chimney.
Okay, I'll pull that up. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Very
actually,
interesting.
Yeah, it's on page 341 as well.
Got it. I'll make a note. I
Yeah.
missed it. Appreciate
Yeah.
that because I just Googled the frontage there and I saw it. And the turret, when you say the turret, that's also where?
That's on the the nearest one that's similar is at Norway and Mapleside, right across from St. Peter's Hospital.
Oh, okay. Okay, super. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's quite a ways away to get one very similar.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Other questions for 537? And the other property is 99 Creighton. Did we have any discussion in regards to that? So asking to add that to the municipal register. Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to approve the recommendations as part of that report?
I see Graham and I see Tim. Nope, sorry, I lied. I did not.
Tim he
Chuck.
did raise his
Informed
hand.
you. I see Chuck, pardon me.
All right, and as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none. Okay, that item is carried. Janice, did you have a comment?
Not about that, but it is in the same meeting notes, and I'm not sure what the process is. But a while back, the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee suggested or recommended that we review the review of pre-2002 designations be sent back to inventory and research and staff. So I just wonder whether that should be discussed now or should that be put on another agenda, because there is information and the notes indicate that we wanted to inform Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee about this, and we would like some direction moving forward as to where we're going to go with early designations and other issues that staff, not issues, but processes that staff have identified in other municipalities, including what are minor and major alterations and what's delegated and what's not delegated, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, no, it's under discussion items. So if you'd
Okay.
want to pull out a point,
Yep,
and we
yep,
can
yep,
raise
yep.
it as a discussion.
So thank you. I basically introduced you to the item, and as you may recall, a few months back, it was following concerns by the Durand Neighborhood Association that a Part 4 designated property at 51 Herkimer did not require a heritage permit to undertake replacement windows. And this is what was brought to the attention of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee and ultimately referred to Inventory and Research Working Group and staff. So at that time, when we next met, staff came back, I think it was 2 months later, and they had prepared 2 documents. And these are all in your package, by the way. There's a list of over 200 pre-2002 designation bylaws, and there are links to those bylaws so we can access those at any time. And also as part of their work, they did send a request to Ontario Heritage Trust, who has a list of all of the heritage committees across the province, and they requested information on how other municipalities were dealing with their older bylaws. Their review also included how heritage permits were handled and which are delegated and which go directly to Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee. We had some concerns and some suggestions, and included how do we differentiate between minor, these were comments that came up, by the way, during our meeting, between minor and major alterations. Should we develop a priority list? And should this be added to the heritage review process, which is currently on hold, but knowing that the changes to Bill 108 are well underway since July 2nd, 2021, should this be part of it? But regardless, the working group felt that the staff should continue with their work and provide follow-up. And what we're here to do, the Inventory and Research Group, is we'd like to hear back from you, and we ask for a clear direction in moving forward for us and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Did we want to say if we have anyone that wants to make some comments or questions, we'll open up the floor to and start gathering a speakers list. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, I, like Janice, have a real concern over this.
I just got the phone call. I need to leave. Bye-bye.
I, like Janice, have a real concern over this because we can potentially lose heritage features off buildings if the buildings do not have to go through the permit review process, such as that one Janice brought up in the first place. To me, if we don't have anything listed on designation, they consider the whole property to be designated, and every permit goes through us at the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee. That's my personal feeling.
Thank you, Graham. Do we have some other thoughts? So I guess maybe what needs to happen is the working group needs to come up with a recommendation that they can bring forward to Municipal Heritage Committee. So Janice needs to have some feedback from the group members. If maybe it's not something that we discuss right here, if the anyone has an opinion or thoughts, maybe that could be forwarded to Janice and raised at the next meeting for inventory and research. And then
Thank you. As a working group, we would appreciate that, because I think it is part of our work that we do, and I think that there should be transparency with this, and we should have some idea of where we're going. And I certainly like what Graham said. We're in difficult times right now with the changes that have occurred, so if we can be a little bit more proactive, that would help. And I guess if we hear from you, or if we don't hear from you, we will put this on our upcoming agenda, and we will bring our recommendations to you for your approval or not, because we can't operate in a vacuum here. So anything that you can send me, take some time, take a look at it, and particularly read what other communities are doing, and get your comments to us. Our next meeting, and I'm going to put this on the agenda, is coming up November 23rd or 22nd. It's the fourth Monday of the month, and November has 5 Mondays, and it's just prior to the next Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee meeting. So thank you for your time and listening.
Okay. Thank you, Janice, for that. And I think we're now moving on to our general information and other business. So at this time, we'll discuss our list of buildings and landscapes. So if we can, and also if anyone has any properties that they're looking to add to the list, if we can highlight that. And maybe if I can just get anyone that's wishing to provide an update, if you can raise your hand, we'll get that list of speakers going. So, so Lorraine, I see Tim and Janice. I see Karen. Is there any others? If not,
I'll say something as well there.
Oh, and David as well. Okay, so we'll start with Tim.
All right, I think I'm on mute. I'm having a little bit of technical issues at my end too. I've cut out a couple of times, so I hopefully get through this. Just real quick ones. I'm wondering about. It's a designated property, but I went on a little guided tour of the Lansdale neighborhood yesterday, and noted that 384 Barton Street looks to be getting in quite poor repair, the brickwork on it. And I don't know if this falls into our watch here or if it overlaps into our places of worship. I believe it used to be the St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church and Sunday School at one time, and is now, I think it's a Spanish or Portuguese language Pentecostal church at present. And it looks like there was a lot of damage done, perhaps during an excavation of a building just to the west of it. There's a big demo, and there's a footings there, but the underneath the church and stuff. So I'd like to add it onto our watch list, and I can certainly watch it unless anybody else is looking, has like a portfolio of churches or something that they would prefer to watch that one with. It looks kind of like a miniature St. Giles, the church, in some ways. And less said about that, the better, I guess. But yeah, so I'm wondering if we could have a motion to add that onto our watch list in yellow, I would propose.
Okay, that sounds good. And I don't think we have a separate watching for places of worship. So this is the best place for it to go. Lorraine, would you like to deal with the motion to add it to the list now, or do it as a?
Yes, please. We can deal with that now. We do need a seconder for Tim's motion. And also, Tim, is that 384 Barton Street?
Yes, yeah, I put it in the
thank
chat.
you. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was thinking about the item you were talking about. I see Councillor Pearson as a seconder.
Yeah, I also had a comment if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. So thank you, Tim, for that information. And I know you mentioned there's no specific section for churches, but I just want to remind committee there was a report done a few years ago. I'm trying to remember who the previous representative citizen rep was on Heritage, lives in Flamborough, that did all the churches in Hamilton and the surrounding municipalities. So there is an inventory somewhere. I'm trying to remember. I believe it's a book. So that might be something that you might want to fall back on as background information of that facility. Thank you.
Lynn and then Janice.
Yeah, Councillor, it was Sylvia Ray and her husband Bob, and we have all that research in the Flamborough archives here.
And currently, Inventory and Research Working Group, way back when I first came on board, we were looking at all of the churches in Hamilton and the amalgamated area and trying to get some order to those as to which ones should be added to inventories, registers, and designation. That is a work in progress that Alyssa Golden has been in charge of, and things got really busy with a lot of other things, and then of course COVID. So that, to the best of my knowledge, we are still working on places of worship. It's just on hold for a little bit. Thank you.
And just through the chair to staff as well, I was certain this building was designated, but maybe they could correct me on that if it's just intended to be designated.
Alyssa, go ahead.
Through the chair, I just wanted to note in terms of there's 2 volumes of inventories. There was an earlier version that included all of the communities other than Hamilton, and then the more recent version, which was published by, I think, Sylvia and some other folks just more recently. Those are all available online through the city's interactive mapping. So both inventory, all the listings, and the documents themselves. And then Tim, yes, the property in question at 384 Barton Street East is already designated under Part 4. So that wouldn't be one that would be reviewed through the ongoing process that Inventory and Research doing currently.
Mm-hmm. But property standards of it would be a concern for us if we're watching a damage or, the state of the property is something that would come before this, our watch list, right?
No, so it's a good addition if there are concerns. So, so we have Tim, and that was seconded by Councillor Pearson. As we vote to add this to our list, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, we'll add 384 Barton Street to that to our list. Tim, did you have any other?
Yeah, just real quickly on ones I'm watching. They've done pretty well at the Cannon Knitting Mill across the street from me, and I'd been before sending photos of like graffiti and unboarded windows, and they acted on that after it got filtered through the heritage staff. And I'm just wondering, with some of the change of staff, if it's the person I should be sending any future photos to would be Amber. Is that correct? Just for my
Hi,
knowledge.
Tim. Through the chair. Yes, feel free to send to me as the cultural heritage planner for the urban area. I do have that building under my portfolio. Thank you.
Okay, and we did correspond about the Rach House.
Yes.
Which is being undergoing a fair amount of renovations at the moment. I sent one where it was all tarped up along the side. It looks like they did paint the one side of it. And I did take a further look into it, and they haven't changed any of the windows or anything. And staff informed me that a permit's not needed for any painting on heritage properties, or on this one particularly. So that's a good thing to, I mean, not that it was an inappropriate thing. It's just place had been, in the same family ownership, I think, for 100 years or something. So it is something I'm keeping an eye on. There was like lots of large equipment around it, and trees cut down, and interior gutting of the place seemed to have gone on. But ever vigilant on the Rach House and the knitting mill for me, and that's the end of my observations for today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. We're now moving on to Janice. Oh, Janice, you just need to take yourself off mute.
Okay, sorry about that. Through the chair, I put mine in the chat form for Loren to copy in. It actually was in the agenda last month, but it was partially done, and then nothing was there. So I would just like to note that there is proactive enforcement by Municipal Law Enforcement weekly at the Television City 163 Jackson Street West. Fines are also being issued for non-compliance. Education is over at this point in time. There have been lots of warnings. And during the AGM, Durand Neighborhood Association AGM last night, this area came up again as being a very uncomfortable area for the residents that live around there, walk their dogs, etc., etc. So it's on Councillor Farr's radar as well. So Amber, that one I guess is on your radar as well. Thank you. That's it.
Janice, through the chair, may I ask that you send that whatever chat you sent to everyone in the chat? I did not receive it. If you're sending something directly to me, it's under my name. And you're muted. Madam Chair, I think we can move on.
Okay, I was just going to say we can let Janice look at that chat. The next is Karen.
Thank you. I have two updates today. The first one is one of the properties of interest in the red category. So that would be the 2 Hat Street. We spoke about this last meeting with the signs about Sophia Pooley. They're still there. They are actually in between our last meeting and now. Some of them were painted over and now they've been replaced with another sign by the same person. But what concerns me also about the building is this. Now there's a little bit of a pink graffiti painted on one of the panels. Not happy to see that. And as well on the door this morning, I noticed that there was an administrative notice with a fine for them using the yard to deposit waste. I didn't actually see any waste, but maybe that was something that happened and maybe it's been cleaned up. But so there's things going on. It's not being kept up beautifully, that building, unfortunately. And so that's the update there. The second update I had was on a yellow property, 64 Hat Street. And this is the old former Valley City Manufacturing Building. And this one is more positive. I'm happy to see that they have set up. I'm not sure exactly where within that huge complex this is, but the upper level, part of it has been set up as a photography and I guess movie studio, where they have decorated it and kind of building on the heritage look inside, the old brick and the beams and such. And they're having that as a photography if you want to come in and get photographs taken or do some filming or videos or whatever. And so they're calling it the Millworks Creative District. So if you look them up on Instagram, you can see some of the interiors, and it's quite lovely. So it's nice to see that the building is being used and it's appreciated for its historic aspects. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen. That is good news for the Valley City. Just before we move on, did staff want to provide any update on 2 Hat? Or possibly it's coming to a future meeting? Seeing no comment, we'll move on to our next, but say there'd probably be some discussion and update on the. Oh, there's.
Hi, through the chair, it's Chloe here. I don't have any further comments on 2 Hat, but I could certainly look into some of those concerns and connect with my colleagues in Heritage Resource Management, who I believe we're looking into some of the signage issues.
That would be great. And any other concerns with property standards? That would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chloe. Right, and next, David.
Yes, you can hear me okay?
Yep, yeah, go right ahead.
I did want to bring this up last meeting. We were pretty busy, but we had met with forestry to, this was the St. Clair Boulevard, by the way, forestry to put in the trees that we had discussed. We did locate all the trees where they would go and decided on what trees would go in, and then we were informed there weren't any trees, so this will have to be done next spring. I think we're up to about 7 or 8 years since the first tree was taken down, the ash tree was taken down, to have it replaced with that bent over tree that's there now. That's one that's going to be replaced. But it's been going on for some time here. By now, the tree could be almost full grown. At any rate, there will be a meeting in the spring to relocate the trees once again, and maybe we can get some trees in. I do want to say, and I would like to meet with the heritage planner at some point in time on this, because in 2017 we met with Parks, the man named Steve, to upgrade the boulevard somewhat. It had been many years since it had been seeded and aerated and holes filled and whatnot, and we were promised then that the boulevard would be upgraded. In 2018, I met with them again, or we did actually, because the city crew had cut down our perennials on the Cumberland end, and we were asking them to be replaced. And we asked if maybe this year, in 18, that work could be done. That was agreed to be done in 2017, and we were promised that that would definitely be done in 2018. We met with them again in 2019 because a large truck had hooked onto one of our armor stones and pulled it quite close to the road. And so he said he had a backhoe in the area. It would be there within the week to pull the stone back. And I said, is there any possibility of getting this promise filled for the last 2 years? And he said, definitely it would be done. The hoe never showed up, and the stone still stays where it is, and no work has been done on the boulevard. And so it was no use to call in 2020, and so here we are, with no work being done after all these years. It seems that it's going to be necessary to meet with a heritage planner, maybe the counselor, to see if we can get some work done, because it's just no action at all is being taken. We also have to discuss the lawn cutting, which is a disgrace at the best of times. They take about 3/4 of an hour to cut the boulevard, and we take about an hour to clean up after them. So there's certainly some work that has to be done here, and it's time, I think, that the city takes a little bit of interest in the Heritage District. The other report I have is that the fences have gone up in Gage Park to put down the terrible toxic tar material in the park. It's interesting that the other cities are taking up this tar material and putting down ecology-friendly materials, and we're still putting it down. I sort of equate to using it as asbestos as insulation. But at any rate, the work is going ahead as was agreed. There was, of course, an after a meeting after the fact on this with staff. This is the third after meeting that we've held for Gage Park. There doesn't seem to be any interest in taking a public view on what is going on in Gage Park by staff, so we just have these after effect meetings. Even our counselor ran on a slogan of engage, but she didn't say engage was after the fact. And so this is what has been happening in the two areas that I watched. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, David. Maybe Amber, is there any follow-up that could happen in regards to the Heritage Conservation District and their boulevards?
Hi, through the chair. I have not been informed about the issues recently in St. Clair Boulevard, but as you know, I'm quite new to this position as well. But I can certainly follow up and find out where that's at with the trees being added. And I think that Anita had something to say, so maybe I will give the floor to her.
Through the chair, what we can do is offer to sort of coordinate a conversation between representatives of the community and public works staff. I mean, planning staff can be there, but certainly these works are sort of outside of our purview. But we can take that on and try and bring those conversations. And if the member of the committee has some specific contact names that they were dealing with, we can certainly reach out to those individuals as well, and to see if there's any kind of a status update in terms of the boulevard and some of the other items that were raised.
Thanks, Adina. David, would you be able to get in touch with staff? Provide that
Yes,
information?
of course. This year, it's it's late to do anything this year, of course.
But the conversation can
we're
start.
looking for maybe to line something up for next year, because this has gone on for one awful long time with not anything being done. And I would appreciate we'd appreciate any help that we can get to move some work forward here on the boulevard for sure.
All right, and then so we'll move on. And Chuck, I think you're next on the list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, my apologies for not bringing this up when we talked about an addition earlier in the discussion, because I should have brought it up then. But I want to talk about potentially adding 311 Rima Road East to the buildings of interest. If you remember from the policy meetings and other meetings previously, we were discussing a property at 323 Rima Road East, a young family cottage, which we had a chia for. By the way, that property is now demolished. It was just demolished 323 was demolished earlier this month. And we started to look at 311, and it was added to the register as part of the efforts by this committee, I think at the end of last year. Well, it's been brought to our attention, and I think it is Janice who did this. The property at 311 Rima Road East is now for sale, and it's being advertised as a redevelopment potential candidate. So I'm proposing to add it to the buildings of interest list under the yellow category. As I said, it's on the register now, and the other thing is I'd be prepared to take this one on as well and add my name as keeping an eye on this one. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. So, Chuck's put forward that motion. Do we have a seconder to add the property to the list?
I see Janice.
So as we vote to add the property, again, it was 311. Is that correct, Chuck?
It is. It's 311 Rima Road East.
Thank you. And that is to the yellow list?
Yes, please. Or that's my proposal.
Thank you.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is added to our list. So thank you for keeping watch of that, Chuck. Are there any other property updates that we would like to make? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the property updates?
I see Graham and I see Karen.
And as we vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Right, and we move on to item 13.2 is the staff work plan as of October 18th, 2021. That was attached to the agenda. Do we have any discussion or comments? Would staff like to provide any? If there's no comments from anyone, may I have a motion to receive? Do I have a mover and a seconder to receive the work plan list? Graham and Lynn. Is there anyone opposed to receiving? Seeing none, that item is carried. And before we head for adjournment, is there any new business? If I can just have a raise of hands and we'll begin a speakers list.
Just a question from my end.
David? Okay, go ahead, David.
I just want to maybe speak to Lauren at some time again, Lorraine, about this problem I'm having with connecting on. I was on the live stream, but I wasn't connected. So maybe we can have a bit of a discussion at what's going wrong here, because I have it every time almost. So I can maybe have a
through the chair, David. I do apologize, but I have no further information. I don't know what your bandwidth is at home. I don't know what you're using to connect to our meetings. So unfortunately, I really don't have anything more to add to be able to assist you. The phone call seems to be working, or connecting as you usually do, but not showing your video. Perhaps that will be less of a burden on your bandwidth. But other than that, I'm not IT, and so I don't actually have anything more to add to that.
Yes,
We could take this offline.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
It's just a couple of questions. Maybe it's a lot easier to solve than we think.
Certainly. Why don't you give me a call after this meeting?
Sure. Okay.
Thank
you very much. Thank you very much, Lorraine. Right.
No, thank you. Any other new business? Seeing none, we're come to the end of our meeting, and may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn?
I see Graham and I see Councillor Pearson. Yes, Councillor Pearson. Pardon me.
Yep. Great. Is there anyone opposed to adjournment? Seeing no hands up. Thank you, everyone, for a great meeting, and we will see you next month. Lorraine, did you want to just verify the meeting date for next month?
As soon as I remember it, I believe it is a different day of the week. This time it is November.
No. Just to confuse matters.
It will be November 23rd at 12:30.
So that is a Monday, I believe, isn't it?
No, that is a Tuesday. Tuesday, November 23rd at 12:30.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Thank you.